Well, thank you all so much for being here today. My name is Morgan Nichols, and I'm the New England Regional Manager of Main Street Alliance. And for those of you who aren't aware, Main Street Alliance is an advocacy organization that works to lift up the voice of small businesses from throughout the state and across the country and the region. Um, to fight for policies that are good for our workers, good for our communities, and good for our families, because our businesses know that when our communities are thriving, our small businesses can thrive. We do work on issues, so we lift up the small business voice to fight for policies related to the care economy, which is obviously what we're talking about here today in as it relates to paid family and medical leave and childcare. But then we also do work on healthcare, access to capital, tax fairness, and anti-monopoly work. We are the co-chairs of the Vermont FaMLI Coalition, along with Michelle Fay of Voices for Vermont's Children and Carrie Brown of the Vermont Commission on Women. And hopefully Carrie Brown will be able to join us today. Unfortunately, because there's so much going on in the legislature, she is supposed to present and testify this morning. And so we'll see if she's able to join us. So Beth, if Carrie shows up, just let me know. If not, we're going to have to hopefully come back to her at a later time. So before we start, if everyone in the chat could just share their name, their affiliation, their business or their organization, their location, and their pronouns, that would be really, really helpful. So before we begin, I just want to create a little bit of a context about the landscape that we're living in today. So while these are national data points, we know that our small businesses and our hourly wage workers and our service providers, most of whom are women and people of color, paid family and medical leave isn't a reality. And we also know that without paid family and medical leave, workers and families are put in incredibly precarious financial situations that threaten food security, housing security, and the mental health of our employees, our families, our children. And that's just creating a situation that no worker, no family should ever have to be in. And this is just information that we have from the National Partnership for Women and Families. So 19% of workers in the United States have access to paid family leaves, the ability to care for a family member who is sick or injured, or to welcome a family member. And then 40% have access to personal medical leave through an employer-provided short-term disability insurance. And often the ability to care for a new family member is under a short-term disability, which is always fascinating and horrible to me. We also know that there's broad support for this across the country, with 84% of US voters supporting paid family and medical leave. So I want to just give a little bit of context about who we are and what we do as the Vermont FaMLI Coalition. So family and medical leave insurance, that's the Vermont FaMLI Coalition. So this is why we're here. We represent over 25 organizations from throughout Vermont who are working together to fight for an equitable, robust, and affordable paid family and medical leave solution, either here at the state or at the national level. And as you'll hear today, we did a lot of work on the federal at the federal level this year. And these are the values that are really important to us as we try to form a paid family and medical leave solution. We want to ensure that it's equal and universal, that we have equal and universal access, that it's available to employers of all sizes and configurations, and that all owners and self-employed people and employees, whether part-time, full-time, or seasonal, are covered. We know that that's incredibly important, especially here in Vermont. We want to ensure that it also provides comprehensive coverage for all three types of leave. So at the least, we want to ensure that it covers 12 weeks of leave for people for either parental leave, family leave, or serious personal medical leave, without gender distinction. We also know that this is incredibly important. We want to ensure that it's inclusive as well, and that we include an inclusive family definition to include chosen family to meet the needs of today's workforce. We also want to ensure that it's affordable to use. We know that maintaining spending power of leave beneficiaries through progressive wage replacement with up to full replacement for our lower wage workers. The percentage of wage replacement matters for our workers. And we know that for those who are higher wage earners who only might receive 60% of wage replacement, they're the ones who are able to take that leave. But for those who are receiving something like 60% wage replacement, who are hourly wage workers, they're not able to take that leave because it's not meeting their financial obligations. So those people are having to go back to work at a much faster rate. We want to ensure that we have a sustainable funding method here in the state or across the country, so that this is a program that we can keep, and it's not something that we just have for a short period of time. We also want to ensure that it's something that is administered publicly and not governed by profit. So that if we farmed it out to a private insurer, that they'd be governed by profitability, right? We want to ensure that people have access to these benefits, and by housing it in a public entity, or ensuring that there's really strong guardrails with public oversight, that's one way that we can do that. We also want to ensure that we have solution-oriented support and protection, and that there is extensive outreach and technical assistance for businesses to launch and address issues such as extended employee absences, stability, and predictability for employees as they return. I do not believe Carrie is here. Carrie, are you here?
I don't see her.
Okay. So our next slide is the wonderful Carrie Brown of the Vermont Commission on Women. What she was going to do today is share a little bit about the specific impacts on women on the workforce, and hopefully we can bring her back to join us in a little bit. But I'm sure that she is testifying at this moment. So the next slide, what we want to do is we want to give a little bit of rundown about the work that we've done over this last year, share where we are today, and then talk about our runway to 2023. So starting in July of 2021, we were thrilled to launch our campaign, our We Believe in Paid Leave campaign. We built a new website, we developed a sign-on, we held a press conference to launch this campaign. We developed 8 videos of stories collected throughout the state that are beautifully crafted by our friends at Well Told Films in Montpelier, actually, telling Vermonters how important and urgent and critical it is that we try to move forward with a paid family and medical leave solution. This was in an effort, and I'll share a little bit about this next, but this was in an effort to support our federal delegation in their efforts to move a paid family and medical leave solution as it related to Build Back Better. And I'm really excited. It's a little bit of a video to watch, but it's really beautiful. So I'm really excited to share the video with you now. And then also I want to just make sure everyone sees that is our new website. So if you want to go check it out, it's www.vtpaidleave.org. Yep. Okay. So here is our video. Really excited to share it with you all. Can you hear it?
Paid family medical leave is important for the health of everyone who works, which is most of us.
It had never occurred to me that there could be a system that would support me as an entrepreneur during periods of life that are hard, because I'd never seen it.
Women of color are the majority of service workers. It's just the sector that we're in. There are plenty of women of color in this country, in Vermont, who have absolutely no options when it comes to family leave. They're working 2 to 3 jobs sometimes, and often those jobs are servicing other people's families.
When we drop out of the workforce to take care of family members, there's a big cost associated with that.
I was so concerned about making money the entire time I was pregnant. I worked up until the day I went into labor.
To take this time without the stress of money, income, and your job expecting you to come back, it means the world.
You shouldn't have to worry about becoming homeless because you want to be with your parent when they pass away. My mother was diagnosed with terminal colon cancer. We were going home to Connecticut every week and driving there and back in one day to not have any breaks in work. It like hit me months later. I regret focusing on things that don't really matter now. Missing work and financial stuff shouldn't have played a role.
Having paid family medical leave would give us an assurance our income wouldn't be devastated by a medical crisis for our family.
Right now, paid family and medical leave is something that you really typically only find in bigger businesses. What a boon it would be to be a small business owner and know that the playing field was leveled.
Small businesses are like what make our communities unique and flourish. How in the world does it make sense that we don't receive the benefits that people working for large corporations receive?
It would help people like me who went through a lot of injuries that they needed to recover from without having to stress about the finances. That would also make it so that we have more money to spend in our community and invest in our futures.
Our communities would be healthier. Our family members who get sick would have more care options. And frankly, it's an option that I think is much less expensive.
Knowing how many people support it, how many businesses support it, if there was ever a more obvious case for government support, I could hardly think of one.
This is something that we could choose to change.
So that's our flagship video featuring the eight people in the businesses from workers and businesses from throughout Vermont. And if you go to our VT, thank you, Marcy. If you go to our vtpaidleave.org and go to the VT stories, you can actually drill down and watch each of their individual stories, which is really, really powerful and beautiful. Hopefully, nope, that's not what we want to do. For some reason, oh, there we go. For some reason, my I love that you learned how to swim in that fountain when you were a baby. I'm trying, I just want to make sure. Sorry, for some reason now my computer is not wanting to work for me. So give me just 1 second. Apologize. Okay. So where are we today? The goals of this campaign, as I shared before, were to raise public consciousness about the opportunity to pass paid family and medical leave as a part of Build Back Better, the federal legislation in Build Back Better. We also wanted to show our strong support for the inclusion of this program to our federal delegation and lift up their voice and their strong support for paid family and medical leave. To be clear, we were very, very successful on all of these fronts. We received incredible support from our delegation on this issue, and they stand strong and firm about trying to move forward a paid family and medical leave solution. In our collective actions as a coalition across over the course of the summer, we sent over 1,000 contacts to our members of Congress supporting paid family and medical leave and the broader Build Back Better package, which was an amazing feat on behalf of our coalition. Unfortunately, as was lifted up on multiple times throughout today's calls, Joe Manchin from West Virginia, unfortunately, put a pin in Build Back Better in December. As soon as we all took the end of the last 2 weeks of December off, we received noticed that Joe Manchin was, went on Fox News and said that he was not going to support Build Back Better. So unfortunately, the federal opportunity to move paid family and medical leave is very uncertain at this time. We believe that there is potential forward movement for something related to Build Back Better, but we know that paid leave is essentially off the table. However, we are working on something this year, so I wanted to let you all know about this as well. Main Street Alliance, since July, has been planting seeds with lawmakers to try to establish a COVID worker relief fund, essentially a state-based FFCRA. We want to create a program that would provide wage replacement for workers, employers, sole proprietors experiencing loss of work for COVID related reasons. We delivered a letter to the legislature a few weeks ago with over 100 businesses that signed on in support of this effort, and over 500 workers, which was incredible. We know that it is currently in the Senate Committee of Economic Development, General and Housing, and that it's also in their Economic Development Omnibus Bill. So it's S-263. We are putting out an ask to our community to email your lawmakers. So I'm actually just going to put the instructions about how to email your lawmakers if you want to support this. I'm just going to plug this into the chat if it will let me. Oh goodness, it's not letting me do this. I will make sure you have all the information after this call. But what we are trying to do is get this through the committee and through the Senate so that it can get over to the House. We really hope that this would provide some economic security for workers and for employers, so that people have financial resiliency to meet this moment. We know especially that parents are getting hit from all sides, and that's affecting our childcare community especially as well, because of symptoms. So kids are having to be out of work or out of childcare, and so therefore families are having to be in work, and parents are having to be out of work. So this would provide some financial security for those workers if they had to be out of work for COVID related reasons. So hopefully that will continue to move forward. And that's what I was just talking to that reporter about. So we're excited to keep that moving forward. All right. So that's where we are today. Unfortunately, at the federal level, it seems as though things have stalled out. We're working on this effort here in Vermont to try to move some COVID worker relief fund. We know that the legislature cares deeply about paid family and medical leave. And we also know that at this juncture, for us to try to get something done this year it's just not in the cards. So what we are planning to do as a coalition is to try to do all that we can to be ready to hit the ground running in January of 2023. We're going to do a bunch of community organizing. We want to get sign-ons to support our efforts to move an equitable and robust paid family and medical leave solution. We want to do story collection so that we are prepared in January so that we can, when we show up to testify, we have a number of different stories as to why equity in a program is important. We're going to be doing work throughout the summer and fall to that legislative groundwork. We want to make sure we've got a number of legislative champions. We want to have the consensus around what that program structure is going to look like. We want to build our bill text, and we want to have a sense of the numbers in this day and age. And then we also want to take the opportunity to engage with our electeds and our candidates throughout the fall to make sure that they know that paid family and medical leave is important to voters as they're showing up in November. So that's all the groundwork that we're going to be doing to get us to be prepared in January 2023. And right now, it's really important that we're all here today. We really appreciate you showing up for paid family and medical leave. And these are some of the ways that you can get involved. And again, I'm hoping that this will allow me to copy and paste and put this in the chat. I don't know why, but it's not working. Oh, there you go. So these are some of the ways that you can get involved. You can sign on to our coalition sign on. So you'll see right there that there's a link that's in the chat for you to sign on to show your support for paid family and medical leave. If you're an organization and would like to join our coalition, please don't hesitate to email me. I've left my email there. Please like and follow and share our social media posts so that we're amplifying this issue on social media. Get your friends involved and your family members. The more voices that we can bring to this, the more power that we will have next year to try to move this in the next biennium. And then as you're connecting with lawmakers, continue to tell them that paid family and medical leave is important for the future of Vermont. It's important for our current workforce and our current families, but it's also important as we try to attract and retain more people to come to the state. If we can pass a robust and equitable paid family and medical leave solution, we're creating better resiliency for everyone here. And then again, be ready to lift up your voice in 2023. We really hope that you'll all join us in these efforts. Again, the more people we have, the better. So I'm going to move on to that one really quickly. But want to create the opportunity for Q&A. Let's just open it up to a discussion. We would be really interested to know from you all. We know you're incredibly busy. What are the best ways for you to support this work? I'd be also interested to know and transparently, like I know how traumatic some paid family and medical leave stories can be for people. So if you're interested in sharing a story, just want to make sure that we're creating a safe space to share those stories here. And then just want to open it up for questions. I'm going to stop sharing because it's better to see your faces. That was really quick.
That's great. Thanks, Morgan.
So first question that I had for everyone is, we know that you're all incredibly busy because of all of the incredible work that you do. In advocacy, what are the best ways? What are the best practices that you feel help you to take action?
I think attending things like this and getting informed on the issues and hearing the talking points, that helps me a lot.
Great, Mercy. And then MA?
I was gonna kind of Amy, yeah, I was gonna add
Amy.
to that. That is the French pronunciation.
Oh, yeah.
Just echoing what Marcy said, just being here and seeing the resources and seeing what's going on. I feel like in the midst of what we do, taking care of kids every day, me taking care of my own, it's so busy. I don't think to stop and take a deep dive into what's going on and how I can support my own profession in this way to and so I think that's a big thing is, how can I continue to stay connected throughout the year and not just this one amazing day.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So if you want to sign on and you're not going to get emails every day, you might get an email a month, or, especially, in this juncture right now, we're in the legislative session. So you might not hear from us for a while, but as we get towards the summer, things might ramp up. And so that might create some opportunities for you to hear what we're working on. So please take a moment to sign on just so that you're a part of that newsletter. So as we're giving updates, that would be great. I also see that Carrie has joined us. Carrie Brown of the Vermont Commission on Women. Thank you so much for joining us. Carrie, do you want to take just a few minutes to share your thoughts about paid family and medical leave and the impacts on women in the workforce?
Yeah, I would be happy to.
Awesome. Thank you.
I will. Thanks, everybody. I really apologize for not being here at the beginning, and I'm glad I was able to join in while you're still all together. So the Vermont Commission on Women is, for those of you who don't know who we are, we're a state agency. Our mission is to advance rights and opportunities for women and girls in Vermont, and we've been doing this since 1964, and which means we've been paying attention to things like economic equity and security for women for a long time. It's really been a major focus of ours. And so we have been tracking the gender wage gap, and we've also been looking really hard at things that support women in being able to be economically self-sufficient. So including being able to go to work and stay at work, and paid family and medical leave is one of those absolutely crucial tools among many to help support women to actually go to work and be able to support their families. So, one of you're all probably familiar with the concept of the gender wage gap, which is that kind of overall women are bringing in less money than men are bringing in. And there are a number of reasons for that. It's a complex issue. But one of the key factors is that women have a much greater workload at home than men do, generally speaking. So women are spending a lot more time taking care of family and household responsibilities, many more hours. In many cases, it can be up to twice as many hours a day taking care of family and household stuff. And so when you're trying to go out to a paying job outside of the home, it's a conflict, and that more often falls on the shoulders of women than it does with men. Including things like, meal prep and grocery shopping and taking the kids to the doctor and all that kind of a stuff. And so this is something that's been historically true. I think it has changed somewhat over time, but it hasn't changed nearly as much as you would think it would with women going into the workforce. So a lot more women work now than they did in 1964 when we started out, but they're not spending proportionally a lot less time taking care of stuff at home. They're still doing all the stuff at home. I know all of you know what I'm talking about. This is not news to anybody here. But so one of the just real quickly that paid family and medical leave can have an impact on this, because it helps to recognize that taking care of your family's medical and health needs as well as your own is actually worth compensating. And so all of you know the value of taking care of children, right? And you also know how poorly that value is recognized financially, right? So when women have historically stayed home and taken care of children, and when women started leaving the home and going out into the world to make money and do some of the same kind of work outside the home that they did inside the home, it's not really surprising that generally our society didn't think that was worth compensating at a very high wage, because it's like, well, this is the work that you were already doing anyway. All this time we have, just because of patriarchy, we value women's work less than we value men's work. And so, that's why child care providers in Vermont are some of the highest compensated in the country. And yet it's like, I think your average is like around $16 an hour or something like that. I mean, it's just absurd. It's unconscionably low overall. But yet we're doing well compared to other states. So it's horrible. And I don't need to tell you all about that, because you're living that. But so this, this has a huge impact on women's financial stability, of course. And then when COVID came along, everything got a lot worse, right? So women were spending even more time taking care of kids at home. Women tended to be, overall more frequently in jobs that were really hit very hard by the pandemic, like retail, food service, that kind of thing. At the same time, women are more likely to be in jobs where working remotely was an option. So you'd have some women who were out of work because their jobs disappeared. Then you had other women who could keep working at home, which meant that they were taking even more time to take care of family and household. And so this has resulted in, among many other things, lots of women leaving the workforce. The job participation rate, the workforce participation rate among women has just plummeted since COVID. So it's down to like where it was back in the 80s. And so it's just tons and tons of progress that has just absolutely been erased. And it's so many things are required to address this. But one of these tools is paid family and medical leave, because it does recognize a little bit that this is work that needs to be compensated. Somebody has to take care of children, right? Somebody has to, and it costs money, whether it's someone staying home from work to do it, whether it's professionals who are doing it. I had been hopeful that COVID was going to help us as a society really come to terms with that and really recognize it. And I'm feeling a little bit less hopeful now. I haven't given up on that idea, but I'm a little worried that it's going to be just too easy to go right back to the way things were. And so now is a really important time to fight for things like paid family medical leave, because it's saying we had these inequities that were present all along, that were resulting in worse economic conditions for certain members of our society. And we have an opportunity now to really rectify it. So it's a good time to advocate for it. It's good for working women. It really helps people stay at work. Women who have access to paid family medical leave are much more likely to actually return to work if they take time off than if they don't have it. And so it keeps them at work. They're much less likely to use public assistance. They're just more tied to the workplace. So it's good for employers. It's good for working moms. And then also a strong paid family medical leave program that is available to men as well as women, and structured in a way that really encourages and supports men to take it as well as women. It also is incredibly helpful towards shifting a little bit that dynamic of who's supposed to take care of children. And so maybe someday we can get away from mothers have a hard time juggling taking care of children and going to work, and then it'll just be parents have a hard time, because it's always going to be a little bit challenging, right? But it should be equally challenging for men and women. And in countries like in Sweden, where we see many more men taking paid family leave, there are also corresponding rises in women's pay and workforce participation. So that's my quick and dirty. I could talk about this for a long time, but I don't want to overwhelm you all. So happy to answer any questions or give you any more information.
That's great, Carrie. Thank you so much. I think that I want to just kind of add to your last point about one of your last points about this is the moment to get involved and to bring people's voices to this. If we can build power over this next year as a coalition and bring as many voices as possible to this, to be ready for 2023, we have the potential to move something. But it's going to take a lot of voices to get there. And I think that I think we can build upon what we've learned through COVID and pull from those narratives to build a really robust campaign. And where we're lucky is that we've done a lot of groundwork over these last 2 years. We've got the website, we've got the data points, we've got a lot of stories, we've got some videos, we've got, a social media campaign. Now what we just need to do is help our legislators all come to the same table so that we're all fighting for the same things. And there's going to be compromises in a bill. We know that. But at the same time, though, let's start with the strongest bill possible and understand what our guardrails are so that we're getting to something that's going to truly meet the needs of Vermonters. So, so that's where we are. And we're really excited to bring you all to this. I'm just seeing Kelly's note. I'm 100% supportive of paid leave. We're in our field, especially, we're extremely short staffed. If you anticipate that this being an attractive draw for future early childhood educators, absolutely. I think that we testified on workforce development a few weeks ago, and the intersectional challenges that your workers are facing between cost of living, housing, lack of reliable transportation, affordability of their salaries, healthcare, and the fact that they don't have access to paid family and medical leave, all of those intersectional challenges is creating a hurdle that a lot of people can't get over when trying to come to the state or potentially choosing early childhood education as their career path. This is one slice of that pie that I think will help us create an ecosystem here in Vermont that supports broader viability of this place, right? I always talk about when I moved back to Vermont, it was the Vermont hustle. Like you have to have 3-4 jobs if you're working, you have to work 3-4 jobs to make it work here, right? And I'll just share on a very personal level, on a paid family and medical leave story. I worked for 2.5 years in my sister's restaurant. I was a line cook. I was a dish pit person. I was a server, a bartender, a waitress, all the things, hostess. And I was making it work. I had like a part-time job teaching art in 2 different schools. I did books for someone. And then I eventually found my way to Main Street Alliance. I love this work. I love talking to all of you, business owners to hear your stories. And a month after COVID, I found a lump in my neck and I got thyroid cancer. It's a little C cancer. It's like you have surgery, you take a pill for the rest of your life. I'm lucky, right? I'm very, very lucky. And I'm fine, so I'm good, which is exciting. But I couldn't use my left arm for 3 months because I had nerve damage. And I am lucky that happened when I was in this job because I had access to paid family and medical leave. Now I'm stubborn and like went back to work faster than I should have because that's just who I am. But had this happened when I was working for my sister and working in that restaurant, I would have not been able to work for at least 3 months because I couldn't have lifted a dish rack, right, of glasses or carried a whole tray of food. I can't even imagine. And I don't have children. I didn't own a home at that time, but like, I can't imagine what that would have done to my financial security. The reality is that if no one chooses when they get sick or injured or when their family member gets sick and injured, we need to ensure that our workers, our families have the financial security to be able to put health and safety first. And we just don't have that right now. And our smallest businesses can only stretch $1 so far. And that this is often out of reach for them. So that's what we're fighting for. So I want to create space for more questions. Courtney, I believe a part of it is also as many individuals still believe we are not considered teachers and we are still seen as glorified babysitters. When in reality, we take the same amount of trainings, classes, and our public school counterparts. So college students are either working EC until they are able to graduate with their degree, or they want to be teachers of middle school or high school students. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, I just want to add on to that is absolutely true. And I think it's an important point to make. It's an important part of the education that the public needs. I also think that babysitters deserve to get paid a lot more than they do, that the work that babysitters do, it doesn't sound like it's not the greatest term, but they're taking care of children and it's incredibly important and it involves skills that not everybody has. And so people need to understand that as well.
Yep.
Babysitters do usually get.
Yeah. I'm seeing you, Kelly. There was a post by an early childhood educator from Lamoille County, and she's like, I'd take babysitter. She like did the numbers on what babysitters earn, right? And so yeah, they often do earn more. What else? And as we go through the rest of this year, what do you want to see from the coalition? What would be helpful, or what would you be excited about getting involved in?
This is Marcy from Prevent Child Abuse Vermont. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nancy.
That's okay. I'll go after you, Marcy.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. One of the points that I didn't hear was that it is a child abuse prevention point, that if workers are using substandard childcare because they can't afford to stay home with dear ones who are sick or recovering from things, then this will and does lead to heightened risk of child abuse and neglect. And so we really need to realize that this idea of paid family medical leave affects children in really big ways, and protecting children needs to be our highest priority.
Thank you, Mercy. Nancy, really quickly, I remember at last year's session, someone shared this story that a child was incredibly stressed and not wanting to have the teacher call the parent because they were afraid their parent was going to lose their job. So, I mean, I think that that just adds to that point, right? The stress that it causes the child. Thank you for sharing that. Nancy.
Thanks. I was just thinking about the lunch conversations that are coming up, and I haven't done a lot around advocacy on this issue, and I was just wanting to make sure I understood. So I know, there was all that work that was put into this moving forward on a federal level, and that is it true that there's really been kind of parallel efforts to try to get federal legislation passed, but also what can Vermont do? So when you're talking about ramping up for 2023 and things, is that's pushing for Vermont to do something and the federal government to do something? I think I'm just wondering, like in our conversations with legislators today, if I could imagine somebody saying, well, I really think this needs to be solved at the federal level. And how do we, what should we be asking our legislators today related to what could happen in Vermont in the short term, in addition to the COVID relief, COVID worker support, which I think is awesome and really important.
Great. I think that, so it's a bit of a both and. I think you could start today with, we know that there's an opportunity to move a COVID worker relief fund, which would provide wage replacement for workers for COVID related reasons. We support that. So that's number one. Number two, and we know that paid leave has sort of been put on the back burner waiting for federal legislation to happen. And we know that that's not happening. So we hope that you will continue to support the establishment of a Vermont paid family and medical leave solution in 2023. Does that work? Okay. Figuring out a way to separate personal time off versus time off for sick leave or taking care of sick individuals at home would be nice, so it's not pulled together. Yeah, I mean, I think for a lot of businesses, there's this coupling of just earned time off, right? And so it could be used for whatever purposes. I think that that is a solution that businesses are just trying to attract and retain workers. So they're just developing that earned time off system. But, the establishment of an official paid family and medical leave solution would decouple those pieces. And I just want to be very clear, like we want to make sure that this is mandatory for all purposes: personal medical leave, parental leave, and family leave. That's really important. It's important that we have a universality of all of this. When we create an opt-in system, like they've created in New Hampshire, we don't even want to talk about it. People are going to automatically fall through the cracks. So we want to make sure that that everyone is covered.